Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, now here I am to kick off reviewing these Marvel stinkers as I reviewed them, like I told you in my last video. And now, as I kick off with these reviews, I'm going to start off by reviewing the Blade trilogy. And so, starting with Blade 1. So, yeah, I really wasn't too sure, like, really what to expect with this movie because prior to making this review and even like as of now, I really hadn't really seen any of the Blade movies, so I really wasn't quite sure really what to expect with this film because really just I really don't hear a lot of people really talking about Blade. I mean, and plus, I never had actually like read the any Blade comics, so I really didn't know really all much about Blade at all. I mean, I knew like Blade was like some sort of like hunter or something. I wasn't really too sure like his what his objectives really are and what he like and what he really does. But I just knew that he was like some type of like hunter hunter or something. And then I like figured out that like who what who Blade is like Blade is like a half vampire daywalker that apparently is a vampire hunter. So I know. So really like Blade's not really like one of the more popular Marvel characters. So really just I don't really think like people really do immediately like think of Blade when they think of Marvel characters. Like there's going to be a lot of Marvel characters that people are going to think of a lot before Blade. So but I really hadn't seen this film before, so I really wasn't too sure what to really expect, especially like seeing how really this film doesn't really get talked about. And even like the critical reaction in this film was pretty mixed. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, this film is like has like in the mid 50s, so kind of like a mixed reaction from critics. So I really didn't know like what to expect. I really didn't know if this film was really gonna suck. It was just gonna be like okay. I wasn't really I really didn't know like how this film really was gonna turn out. But I did give this film a watch, and I gotta say this was actually a pretty cool movie. I mean, I'm really not too sure what it is about this film that really like gets overlooked. I mean, I guess because like at this time, like superhero movies and comic book films in particular, just they just really were not taken very seriously because this film was released in 1998, and of course, just a previous year in 1997, there were three of the worst comic book films ever made that were released that year. I mean, we had, of course, Batman and Robin. There was Steel, and there was also Spawn that was released in 1997, and those three movies were all, like just, those films were all just, like, terrible films. So and I guess, like, it's really, like, because of, like, films like that really just, at this time, comic book films really were, like, really not seen as anything spectacular, and people really didn't take them seriously. And, of course, like, the first X-Men movie is really like the film that really is kind of known as the film that really did kind of like start the trend of like critically acclaimed superhero movies, and especially like ones from like ones that were based on Marvel properties, like Marvel based films that really like did start to really like be critically acclaimed and really like start the trend of good ones, because there was like the X-Men movies and then the Spider-Man trilogy, and then of course like we did it also eventually did lead to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. So people really do look at like the first X-Men movie as the one that really did start the trend of like all the superhero films that really the Marvel based films that really did like start that trend. And because it wasn't just this, it was also like there was like Daredevil and Hulk and Fantastic Four films, and films like that. And people really look at like the first X-Men as the one that really did start that trend. But I really do think that this film really is the one that really did kind of like start to really kind of like get the comic book film like kind of start to like dig them out of the ground and really like start to ignite the trend of all the popular Marvel-based super comic book films. Because yeah, this film, it really wasn't that bad. Like this film actually was, like I said, it was actually a pretty cool film. Now it's not like a perfect film by any means. Like yeah, I mean, it definitely is not going to be looked at as like one of the greatest comic book films of all time. But yeah, for a 2 hour film about Blade, it actually is pretty cool. Like I said, I've never like actually like read any of the Blade comics, so I really don't know like how well this film actually does follow the comics. But yeah, for as its own thing, it actually is a pretty cool film. Yeah, I mean Wesley Snipes is like pretty awesome as Blade. Like he really does make Blade like a really cool character in this film, and yeah, I think the film overall it is enjoyable. Like I said, not perfect by any means, and definitely not a film that is going to be known as was one of the greatest films ever. But yeah, it is like pretty cool to watch. I mean, yeah, it does have like pretty cool fight scenes in it, and yeah, the characters are all like they're like relatively interesting. Like there isn't really like any character in this film that really does like come across as just boring and just you just want this character to just get the hell off the screen. So yeah, it is like a cool film with interesting characters. Yeah, like I said, it isn't perfect. Like at times the writing can get pretty dumb, and plus, yeah, it does like definitely have a lot of like it does get like cheesy at points as well. Like there are like some elements of the film that really are cheesy, especially like as '90s style cliches go. Like there are points in this film where it just like is fast forward for some reason and stuff is just like going by really fast and stuff. And plus, yeah, the effects really haven't aged very well, especially like when like the vampires in this film they die. Like yeah, it is like pretty cheap effects and stuff. So well, yeah, it definitely is like. So yeah, the film definitely does have its flaws, but as a whole, it is a pretty enjoyable film, and I do think that it is pretty cool, and I do think that this film does deserve some more recognition because, yeah, like I was saying, like the 2000 X-Men film is really the film that is known to really start the trend of all the popular Marvel based comic book films that have been coming out. But yeah, this film really was like the one that really sort of like really start to like dig them up out of the ground and really like kind of like start to ignite all the Marvel hits. And so yeah, like I said, it is a pretty cool film. If you haven't seen it before, I would recommend it. And yeah, I do think it is worth a watch. So yeah, yeah. So it is like a cool film to see, and I think it is overall like enjoyable to see. So I would probably give this film like a 3 stars out of 4. So yeah, of all the stinkers as I refer to them that I'm doing in these reviews, this one probably isn't really that much of a stinker. But yeah, just like I guess the reason just I decided to include it is just because like how much of a black people talk about it, and yeah, who knows, maybe like the sequels really don't aren't as good, and maybe the sequels really do look stupid. Like I said, I don't know because I haven't actually watched them, but I have heard like Blade Trinity in particular isn't all that hot. So yeah, I'll just see how that turns out when I get to it. But this film overall, it is a cool film to see with some cool fighting scenes, interesting characters, and yeah, Wesley Snipes, he's just awesome as Blade. So yeah, overall, a pretty good film. All right, so yeah, let me just talk a little bit about the premise of this film. All right. So the film opens up in the year 1967, and it just shows that there is a woman who is pregnant, and apparently, like, she ended up being attacked by a vampire of some kind, and then yeah, she just ended up like being forced into premature labor. And yeah, the doctors were like trying to tend to her, but yeah, they were able to actually save her baby, but after the baby was born, or she just ended up dying of some sort of infection. Yeah. And then the film cut to just 30 years later in 1997. And it shows that there's like this some sort of a rave club in Detroit. And then and then it shows like this one guy is like invited to the rave, and Yeah, actually, the sprinklers from the ceiling end up like spraying out blood. And then the guy then realized that everybody at that rave is actually a vampire. And so then yeah, he tries to like escape from the rave, but then yeah, then like shows that the child had now become like the Blade, who's a vampire hunter, and yeah, like I said, Wesley Snipes, he's just really cool as Blade. Like, now he like just carries around like a sword in his back, and yeah, I feel like how like throughout like his torso and chest area, he just has like armor type steel to protect himself from it. Yeah, and then yeah, it also like shows how in this film, like Blade, he like uh he like has an enzyme in his bloodstream from his mother being bit by vampire, and then like because of that, like he has an immunity to some to the bites of yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, motorcycles just passing by or something. Yeah, and Blade, like he has the immunity of the bites of like the supernatural vampire, so yeah, he's not really affected by any of the other vampires, and he just like I said, he's like a vampire hunter that just kills off all the vampires, and so then yeah, he then like just ended up just we're killing off all the vampires, and yeah, like I said, the effects of like the vampires dying is pretty cheap. Like it just it's like shows that they just like end up turning into skeletons and just disintegrating. So yeah, it's a pretty cheap effect, honestly. I mean, it's kind of like yeah, I mean, it, it's kind of like how, like in the original Spider-Man film, like when the Green Goblin like disintegrated like the Oscorp board members, how they turned into skeletons and just disintegrated instantly. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, like it doesn't even look as good here as it did in the first Spider-Man film. So yeah, the effects are pretty cheap, but yeah, it was what it is. Yeah, and then yeah, he just ended up yeah, raiding that rave and then just destroying the vampire hires, and it showed that the owner of this rave club is like the vampire Deacon Frost, who's like Blade's main enemy in this film. Yeah, and then one of the vampires like he ended up like surviving the attack from Blade and ended up being taken to the hospital to try to be treated, and then like the vampire then like woke up and then killed one of the doctors, Curtis Webb, and then he attacked the other doctor, hematologist Karen Jensen. But yeah, Blade ended up coming to her rescue before the vampire could actually uh, finish Karen off, and then but the vampire ended up escaping, and then Blade then ended up taking Karen back to his hideout, and which was a safe house where Blade's means a friend Abraham Whistler, played by Chris Christopherson, and ended up treating her, like injecting her with garlic. Yeah, because you know how it is with vampires and garlic. Like, like garlic is like one of the vampires. It's like one of vampires' weaknesses. So, like they, So Whistler ended up like injecting some garlic into Karen to treat her. Yeah, and then over time, like Whistler just explained to Karen that he and Blade are actually in a secret war against vampires that use weapons that are based on like elemental weaknesses of vampires, like sunlight and silver. And Karen is now marked by the bite of a vampire, and like Blade and Whistler then were just like telling Karen that she has to leave the city, and then over time, I'm like as Karen like ended up like returning home to her apartment, and a police officer or then tried to attack Karen, but then Blade came to Karen's rescue again, and it turned out that this police officer wasn't actually like a vampire, but he's like what Blade referred to as a familiar, which is like a human slave that's controlled by the vampires. And then yeah, Blade subdued the cop and just like got some information from him to find the archive of vampire history. And then at a meeting of the vampire elders, Frost, Haas, who was also like a leader of like a younger faction of vampires, he ended up being rebuked for like inciting a war between the vampires and the humans, and like it's like shown that Frost and his kind are like considered like socially inferior, since like they weren't actually born as vampires and aren't like what the real vampires do like referred to as pure bloods. And then Frost then just responded by actually like executing one of the elder vampires and then stripping everyone else of their authorities. Yeah, and then like later on, like back at Blade's hideout, like it's shown that he then like injected himself with a special serum that like actually prevents him from actually succumbing to like his desire to drink blood, which is like what the vampires do. But yeah, it then like later on, it's like shown that his serum is like really losing the effectiveness due to like overuse of it, and then and eventually then like after the cop then just told Frost about what happened, then and Frost then just ended up killing and eating the cop, and then after like an experiment with uh EDTA, hey, as like a replacement, Karen like eventually like discovered that if like EDTA is combined with like vampire blood, that it would actually like explode. Yeah, and yeah, I should probably like mention that. Yeah, there's some like important points in this film that are actually like done like off screen. Like we don't actually like see any of it actually being discussed. So yeah, I guess that is probably like another flaw with the film. How like like some important points in the film are actually like talked about off screen and we don't actually hear anything about it. So yeah, I guess that is like one flaw that I mean this would have actually like really been like useful to actually know about in the film, like for us to actually see it. But yeah, it wasn't. So yeah, I guess that like makes the film kind of suffer a bit. Yeah, and then yeah, then Karen was able to like synthesize a vaccine that would actually be able to cure everyone that's been infected by uh, vampires. But like it also she also like discovers that for like the type of vampire that Blade is like that vaccine won't actually work on Blade. But Karen still was like very confident that she would be able to actually cure Blade's bloodthirst. But yeah, in order to like fully treat him, would actually take years to do. Yeah. And then eventually, like as Blade was gone from the hideout, Frost and his men ended up like attacking the hideout, and then they ended up like infecting Whistler and then taking Karen off. And then when Blade came back, he then saw what had happened. He saw that Whistler her was like laid out and infected, and then Whistler then like on his dying breaths, he just was telling Whistler where or they took Karen, and then he just like told Blade to help give him his gun that he carries around, and then yeah, Blade, uh, Whistler then just committed suicide by blasting himself with the uh, a gun, and then yeah, Blade then just like took all the special syringes that were filled with the EDTA with him to rescue Karen and stop Frost and his men. Yeah, and then when Blade arrived at Frost's penthouse to try to save Karen, he eventually like discovered that his mother actually was still alive. And then it was like revealed that his mother actually came back that night that she was brought in by Frost, and yeah, then Frost then ended up arriving and revealed that he was the vampire that bit her, and then it also like showed that um, Blade's mother actually was now one of Frost's minions as well. And then, yeah, and then Blade just ended up being subdued by Frost and his men, as well as like just being like crushed about his mother like turning on him like this. And then Blade ended up being taken to the Temple of Eternal Night, and then yeah, Frost then like his plan was to like take all of Blade's blood and use it to actually like become like uh the Magra, who's like the vampire or blood god. And so then and yeah, and then it also showed how Karen ended up like being thrown into a pit, and then showed that the other doctor Webb who actually had survived, and it turned out after the vampire attack he like had become like a decomposing zombie like creature. But yeah, Karen was able to defeat Webb with a sharp bone and escape, and then yeah, Blade then started to be drained of all his blood, but Karen was able to save Blade before the or it could be done. But yeah, Blade was really weak, of course, and yeah, and then Karen just like allowed Blade to like just drink blood from her to revive him, and he could recover. So yeah, Blade then did that, and then yeah, Blade fully recovered, and yeah, then meanwhile, like then the ritual then was completed, and Frost ended up like obtaining all the powers of Lamagra. But then yeah, Blade then ended up like fighting off like his mother and killing her, and then he also like a lot of Frost's minions ended up being destroyed as well. And then yeah, Blade then and confronted Frost after killing off the rest of his minions. Then it came down to the final fight with Blade and Frost, and then yeah, there was, and then yeah, they fought off back and forth with each other their with each having a sword with them. Yeah, and then when it appeared that Blade had cut off Frost's arm and sliced him in half, then it just showed that Frost was just able to like reassemble himself, and he couldn't actually be destroyed that way. But then eventually, then Blade Haytham was able to get a hold of all the syringes, and then he then injected all of them into Frost, and then caused his body to just inflate and explode, and yeah, he was killed. Yeah, and then after Karen and Blade then were able to, after they left the hideout, then and Blade just told Karen that uh, it's not over and that they're still in a war, and then he just asked Karen to create a new serum for him. So yeah, it was interesting that usually like when a comic book films actually get to this point where like the hero and like the main female of the movie like they end up surviving, they end up getting together, but here they don't. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that this film really didn't like take that turn. So yeah, and then yeah, but then yeah, it appeared that the film was over. Like that was how the film would end. But then afterwards, then it just like cut to Moscow, where it like showed that there was another type of vampire like attacking a woman. But then yeah, Blade then appeared and then confronted the vampire, and then yeah, Blade just pulled out his sword and was about to like fight off with the vampire. But then yeah, then the movie then just ended and cut to credits. So yeah, as I said, I haven't actually seen like Blade 2 or Blade Trinity yet, so I don't know if like that is gonna actually carry over to Blade 2. Yeah, I'll have to actually wait till I watch the movie to find out for sure. But yeah, overall, this is a pretty cool film. Like I said, like it does have some pretty cool fight scenes. Means the effects, not the greatest, but I guess they could have been worse. And yeah, like in Wesley Snipes, he is like really awesome as Blade, and just the characters are still like very interesting. Like there isn't really any aren't really any boring characters in this film. So yeah, like I said, it does have its flaws. Like I said, like it does have some cheesy elements and some cheesy cliches in and yeah, the writing at some points can not really be very good. And yeah, like I said, there's some stuff that is like not actually talked about on screen. So yeah, we don't really like really hear them actually discussing all some important points in this film and how they actually come up with it. But yeah, so it does like have its flaws, but overall, I actually do think it is a pretty good film, and like I said, I do think it does deserve more recognition. So yeah, if you haven't seen this film before, I would recommend it. I would say check it out because, yeah, like I've said, I haven't actually like read the comics, so I don't know like how well this does like actually follow the source material. But yeah, like I said at the start of this review, as its own thing, like just as a film, it is like a pretty cool film to watch. So yeah, I like it. So yeah, so if you haven't seen it before, if you're curious, I think it is at least worth a watch. So yeah, check it out and just decide for yourself what you think of it. Yeah, you may like it, or you may just think it's okay. Yeah, it just depends on if you can actually like put up with like the flaws that it has. Like there is still like a lot to love about the film. So yeah, it is pretty good. That I think. So yeah. So like I said, if you haven't seen it before, check it out. All right. So I guess that's all I really have to say about it. So yeah, okay, so I guess this does it for my review of Blade. So I hope you guys did enjoy this review and stay tuned for my reviews of the other two of Blade films coming up next. And for more of these Marvel stinkers throughout the rest of the month. So yeah, stay tuned for more. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.